Hey everyone, it's Angus here. I've been asked to do a quick video on how I use conditional orders inside CommSec. Most platforms will support conditional orders. If you're basically using the Australian market, CommSec's a platform that I very much like, and I use conditional orders every time I trade. Like whenever I buy a stock, I immediately go and place a trailing sell because I always want to protect my downside. I want to make sure that if I enter a stock and it goes in the wrong direction, I'm automatically able to put that share back into the market and get out of the trade. And I try and limit my losses to around about 5% below my buy price. And the other advantage, of course, if I have something like a trailing stop loss, it does mean that if the price goes up, say 20%, and then comes down, 5 to 10%, depending on what my trail is set at, then I do have a chance of locking in profit before the share goes all the way back down. So what you need to do is you need to go to the trading tab within CommSec, and you'll see that I can't remember if it's there by default or not, but you actually need to ask CommSec to enable conditional orders for you. So I can see that, I've got my normal, buy and sell at market and limit and not sort of orders within my trading. And so if I go to conditional orders, then I get these two new tabs, which is place conditional order and manage conditional orders. And so you get to choose which account they come out of. This is just a sort of a dummy test account that I've got. And I can then select from these 6 different types of, conditional orders. So there's a falling sell, there's a rising buy, there's a falling buy, there's a rising sell, there's a trailing buy, and there's a trailing sell. The number one thing you need to do is go to Google and look for a document called CommSec Conditional Orders, and it's a PDF called secureyourposition.pdf. And once you get that, it goes into quite good detail about how all of these different types of conditional orders work. The one that I personally use 90% of the time is a trailing sell, but there are circumstances where some of these other ones can also be very, very useful tools, especially if you're not watching the market every day. As always, this is just how I trade. You might want to trade differently, but conditional orders, I think, is something that most people should very seriously understand. It's obviously more important to protect your money than trying to make money. The biggest thing that I can tell anyone is protect your downside. Try and minimize your losses as much as possible, and then anytime a stock is running, let it run and make as much profit as you can out of it. Then when the trend does end or the stock does reverse direction, then look to get out. So I'll just read through the document very, very quickly on what each of these different types of conditional orders do. But as I said, look at the document yourself, and it's all quite good. So it says that a falling sell helps you lock in your gains or limit your losses in a falling market. The next one is a rising buy, which helps you take a profit when a security price rises. The next one is a trailing sell, which helps you maximize profits when a security price rises. The next one is a falling buy, which helps you invest in a company when it becomes good value. And the next one says is a trailing buy, helps you invest in a company by maximizing value. And the last one, I think, is a rising buy that helps you take advantage of a security that's on the rise. And that's the very quick summary of each of the different types of buys. But as before, find the document and go through it. So just to show you how I place a conditional order, as soon as I buy a stock, I always come in, and again, this is just how I trade. I always place a trailing sell, and I know I've got a stock called Altium, which is ALU, and I think I've got 60 of it. And so see how down here, if you've got typed in the right code, see how it says 60 down here. Now the current bid is $35.80. And so what I want to try and do is, as soon as I buy this stock, and I would have bought it for probably around about that price, but it doesn't actually matter what you paid for it. What you want to do is get the trail started as soon as you enter. So at the moment the bid is $35.80. So that's where I want the trail to start. So as soon as I hit submit, I want this trail to be active. You can either choose a dollar value or you can choose a percentage value. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll go and have a look at the stock, and I'll see how many ticks down it might be, to try and work out, where's all the volume. So, if there's, I don't know, 20 buys in the queue, I might say, where's the majority of the buys? And I might put a dollar value, just below that. So I could set a dollar value, for example, at, maybe $34.95. So if it drops below, $35.80, I want to get out. And so, that's 85 cents below where the existing price is. So, in my head, I can lose 85 cents, which takes me to that $34.95. And so I can put in 85 cents. And then what happens, though, is that as this price goes up, the dollar value that it's set at also goes up. So if this price goes up to, say, I don't know, crazy number like $50, then my stop loss will actually be $50 minus 85 cents. And so what's that, $49.15 or whatever it is, if maths in my head sometimes dodgy, but $49.15. And so as the stock goes up, you might want to widen that value. The other good use of the dollar value is if you want to calculate what's called an ATR, which is an average true range for each stock. And an average true range has been shown time and time again to probably be one of the best ways to set a stop loss, because it's very stock specific. So some stocks might trade, over, let's say, a 30 to 90 day period, whatever it happens to be. They might have a very large range. They might be very volatile. So a stock might go up and down 5 to 10%, over that period of time. So it's got quite a wide range. And if you set your stop loss too close, then you'll get stopped out. There's been some, studies done around that show that a good stop loss is around between 15 and 20%, if you want to use a percentage value. And so one of the limitations with CommSec is the maximum you can set it to is 15%. So the best way to trade is probably to work out for each individual stock what you want to set your range to be, whether it's a dollar value or a percentage value. But I'm a little bit lazy, and so all I do is I basically say I'm going to buy the stock, and as soon as I buy it, I'm going to put in a 10% stop loss. So that means that if the stock goes down by 10%, then I get out of that trade. It means that I've guessed the wrong way. But what I actually do is I keep an eye on it. So if it goes down, let's say 5% below my buy price, I'm not too worried. Like, if it's down 3 to 4%, I'm not overly worried. But if it gets to sort of 6 and 7%, then I'll have a really good look at the stock, and I might end up selling it before it even hits my 10%. The 10% to me is kind of like my emergency stop. But if it looks like it's just having a couple of days of hiccup, within that sort of true range of where the stock goes up and down, then I'll happily hang on to it. So when I first buy a stock, I set a stop loss at 10%. But once the stock is up, say 5 to 10%, then what I'll do is I'll increase that to 15. And 15 is the maximum that you can use on CommSec. So that's just the way that CommSec works. But I think with other brokers, you might be able to set it, to a greater value. So if I'm buying a penny stock, I might set it to a dollar value, because percentage values just have no meaning. But the biggest stocks I just set to 10%, and I try and get out, with no more than a 5% loss or so. But the advantage of something like a 15% trail or whatever it is it keeps you in the trade for a long time. And if the stock does go against you for whatever reason, this $35.80 might go up to $50, as we said before. And instead of having this little tiny 85-cent stop trailing it, if I set this to say 10%, then I've got a $5 stop trailing it. So as this price goes up and up and up and up and up, then my I guess my dollar amount becomes greater as a percentage value, because I'm using the percentage. So I personally like to use percentages, and I trade very, very simply. All I do is I set a 10% when I first buy it, and then I widen that to 15%, once the stock's gone up a fair bit, 5 to 10%, because then I'm, limiting my downside losses. And it also means that I get to bank profit. So if the price, let's say it goes up to $50 and it drops back to 43, at $45, it will trigger what's called a market order. And so it means that it puts my trade into the market at 45. But if there's no buyers at 45, it might mean that I sell at 43. It might mean that I sell at 42. So, if the stock plummets, let's say, horribly plummets to $30 within, one or two trades somehow, then it means that I'll get $30 for it. So, there's a slight catch in that, you won't necessarily get out at the price you think. But, I can say that I don't think I've ever been caught out, for any of these big plunges. I tend to, get stopped out, a third of the way down or half the way down. And, you can always buy back in. So it means that I can sleep, peacefully at night, because my money's always protected. I know that no matter what, I'm always going to be, if the stock goes the wrong way, I'm going to get out somewhere around my 10 to 12 to 15% type mark, depending on how badly the stock's been affected. But it means that my money's back in my bank account, with a lesser loss than if the price goes all the way down. I don't have a stop. You can do additional things too. You can say that, pretend a stock like Altium, maybe it does 100,000 shares a day, and you can say, well, I don't want to sell this unless it's done 50,000 shares a day. You can put in whatever number you like. Again, I don't use this very often, but it's a good way to sort of avoid some of the pump and dumpers. When someone at the start of the day, puts in a whole bunch of cascading type orders to try and trigger any stops. If they're below a certain level that people like, then it's a good way just to say, well, wait until there's been significant volume, then activate my trail. The other thing I'll sometimes do is I might say, only have this as active between 10:30 and 4, when the market closes, because often there's a crazy amount of volatility in the first half hour of the day where stocks go all over the place, and then by about 10:30 they've sort of settled down a little bit. So you get a bit more certainty around what's going to happen with the share. But again, I honestly don't tend to use these. No good reason. I probably should, but I'm just happy with my 10% stop. Just keep it simple. So in here, I want to say how many, I want to set, and so I always put the full amount. But you might choose to, do 30 at a particular amount, and another 30 at a different amount. So it just sits there. You can see that it expires. Default expiring is 20 days. There's always little question marks here to give you an idea or give you a hint on what you're meant to be doing. You can see here that the order value is 19.33. The brokerage is $18, less GSTs, whatever. So I probably bought around $2,000 worth of these stocks, my play account, and you can see that I end up with 19.13 if it hits that stop loss and if I get kicked out. So the next thing to do is go review, and it'll just take your little confirmation page. You go submit. And the main thing you're looking for is you want to see sell trigger will commence trailing immediately. So, that's the key. You want to make sure that sometimes you put in an amount, and for whatever reason, the price has moved from when you entered it, and you'll hit this thing, and you won't realize that your stop loss isn't actually active. So, you go submit trigger, and you can see here that it's basically saying that, I'm going to, trailing cells activated, here's the hours that it's activated, default 20 days. You can go to manage conditional orders, and it will tell you what you've got in here. And the biggest tip I can give you that I got caught out at the start is you want to see a yes against a trailing item here. So, that's quite key. If it says no, then it means that your stop loss isn't active. And the other thing you can do is you can just go in and edit it. You can go in and amend these things. So you can go and change the amount. So if a stock, if you feel like a stock might be coming to the end of its life, in terms of momentum, or if the market's sketchy, like when the market was going through the start of August, it was dropping because of recessionary fears, and the 10-year bond versus the 2-year bond was all over the place and spooking the market. I set all my stops to 5%, so it meant that if a stock wiggled the wrong way, I got out and I kept my profit. So that's just again a way that I might trade. And then again, you just hit review, and you can resubmit that. So when you go back up to place conditional orders, there's a whole bunch of them. The other one, I can't remember which one it is, but I think it's either a trailing buy or a falling, a rising buy, whichever one it is. Whenever you click on them, you'll get a little map here that tells you, which is the, which is the sort of way that you want it to go. And so, as an example, if I'm sitting here at, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night and I think BHP looks good, I think I might want to buy BHP, when the market opens tomorrow. Because I'm away at work, I'm away at my desk, so I can't actually be here to place the order. What I'll do is I might say, well, the current bid is $36.25, so I'll type in $36.25, but I don't actually want to buy it. What I want to do is I want to wait until the order has gone up by a certain amount. So I think it's $36.25 now. I might wait until it gets to maybe, I don't know, $35 or something, whatever it happens to be. And then at that point I'll buy it. So, I want to wait until it gets to a certain level. In fact, 36.25 means I'll buy it straight away. So I might be saying, if it's 36.25, I might say, let's wait until it gets to 37, and then at $37, put an order into the system, and you can have volume again if you want to have volume again, but you might say quantity, I want to buy 100, and the price limit is where you want to set a limit. So if it goes, let's say over 39, that's the maximum I want to pay for it. So anywhere between 37 and 39, I'm happy to buy that stock. So that's just a way of basically getting into a trade to make sure it's moving in the right direction. So rather than putting your money, you're putting your order in at market, and the stock goes backwards, and all of a sudden you've bought a stock at the sort of high of the day, and it's rapidly losing money. You might say, well, let's wait until confirmation of the trend. Wait until you see that it is going up, and then buy at that point. So I hope that's useful. I don't really know what else I'd add, but it's worthwhile going and having a look at all of these. Another one I use is there's things like a falling buy. I can't quite remember which it is, but if a stock's on its way down, you can say, well, wait until it goes down, 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 down. And then there's one that I like. I can't remember which it is. Maybe it's a trailing. I don't know. It's either it might be a rising buy, but there's something where if a stock is on its way down, then what I'll do is I'll put in a rising buy and I'll say, look, the stock is obviously heading in the wrong direction, but if it turns around and goes up by 5%, then buy. And so all I'm doing is I'm waiting for a stock to effectively bottom out, and then when it looks like it shows signs of recovery, as all the people have realised that it's oversold and they start to buy back in, then I'll have the system automatically trigger an order. There's a whole heap of stuff you can do. Conditional orders are awesome. CommSec, the way that they do it is brilliant. I've it's a very good system, and I wish that more brokerages or more trading type tools had as simple a system as this. I'd highly recommend that you learn all about conditional orders and use them to your advantage. It's basically automated trading to some extent, and again, the biggest thing that I got out of it is it just helps me sleep at night knowing that my stocks are largely protected. Anyway, I'll leave the video at that, and I hope it makes sense, but do try and read the PDF document. That's the biggest tip that I can give you, and it will tell you all the different ways that you can use conditional orders. Thank you for listening.